Hello folks, as you might guess, I'm not ready. We turn on the headset, there we go, and the mic. My name's Ed Overstreet. Welcome to the Night Sky Imaging YouTube channel. And right now I have, let me share my screen. And it's not sharing, there we go. I have this telescope right here, beaming on the moon, and it's still daylight. As you can see, this is my surveillance camera, and we are looking at the moon, and we will meet at the moon. So come join me. All right, here we are, bigger than bear. Let me close down some boxes you can't see. Part of my streaming software. There's a bunch of them. I wasn't prepared to go this quick here. And but head back out and I'll show you my streaming software. My uh, kit that I'm using. This is a 625 Vixen refractor, and I'm really planning on doing some deep sky imaging later tonight, about 12:30 tomorrow morning, and I'm going to use this kit. I'm only going to image with one telescope kit tonight, um, and I'll be working on the elephant's trunk. So I've got the ZWO 1600 Pro and a 7-position filter wheel with this one happens to have the Astrodon filters on it. So that's what we're doing, and I will take us back to the moon for right now, because I do have, even though it's daylight, well, it's getting darker, but I do have, let me find my, there we go. I do have the moon in my sights. Let me move it over a little bit. This is my hand controller over here. It's an ASCOM, and I need to go up a little bit, I believe. Kind of center it. I'm using SharpCap, and this is the, let me see if I have what region of interest I have. I'm using a capture area of 2328 by 1760. If I take the native capture rate of the camera, which is 4656 by 3520, then it gives me a much more distant view. And let's go ahead and do a better job of centering, since I can see we need to move out over this way, and probably up a little, not much, and that'll do it for a while. Okay, let's pick a different region and kind of zoom in. May have to work on a little focus. Let's try 1160 by 880, and rather than move the mount, I'm up here and I'm taking the selection, the region of interest selection. We can go ahead and put the outside camera to sleep. We don't need it. All right, I'm back. And but I just move this around. Okay, let's go over to where the sun isn't, and here we have some of the only features that are going to be noteworthy and image worthy, because the sun is just barely cascading over the surface of the moon here, and that's why you can see these craters, and the sun is more getting having a direct hit on the face of the moon, and so you really see very little definition. But as you know, there are thousands of little craters all throughout the moon. It's just there's no contrast because of the way the sun's striking the moon at that point. But over here now it's a little different. And let's take this region of interest to about 800 by 600. And let's move over here. And it looks like it's fairly sharpened. I could go, I have a Moonlight focuser, an electronic focuser on the refractor. I could go do an autofocus on a star if it was dark enough, but yeah, it isn't dark enough to do that yet. I'll have to wait till it's good and dark. And but I don't know if I see any need to do that right now. This is fine. Let's just go on. Oh yes, much more definition, much more interesting areas to look at on the surface when you. We can also affect the exposure by adding. Blew it out at the bottom where the sun is, but where the sun isn't, that's where the sun isn't directly hitting the surface of the moon. That's where all the contrast is. I get questioned from time to time, and as most of you know, there's going to be a full blood moon tonight. Are you going to be imaging that? And I sometimes do those things, but there's just not any features to image other than color, and it's really hard to get the actual color even when you have a color camera, but it is for me anyway. Let's just continue to go around. This always intrigues me. We're in a very dark area of the sky, but the sun, which is coming from this direction down here, shooting up, this is evidently such a high structure that it's striking and lighting up that part of the structure. So looks like it's a hole, but I don't know how it could be a crater. Something has to be reflecting the light from the sun, and since none of the other surface areas are doing that, none of the other craters are doing that, then this can't be a crater. It's got to be something that's jetting up. That's just my logic, and I may be all wrong. If some of you guys know what that is, I am surely not a lunar scholar. By the last thing I am. It's just trying to look at things like that and figure out what they are. Either way, I'm going to go over to Google, and I brought up the transit, the homepage for the ISS Transit Finder, and if you want to find that, it's up here at transit-finder.com. Put in your latitude and your longitude and your altitude in meters, and you do have the option when you click home to have it automatically find it, or a map that you can go to and put that in. But if you just put in those numbers, look at your polar alignment app on your smartphone. If you're an imager, you've got that, and just put those numbers in and calculate. Now I do have, and I want to straighten that out right quick. I do have on my settings an error. It says your preferred travel distance to see the transit of the ISS or any other satellite. I don't want to go 80 kilometers. I might go 10, but I'm really wanting to see this in my backyard. I don't want to have to go anywhere. I'm really pretty picky about it. So it's calculating, and it's telling me that there's only 3 possibilities on June the 15th at 6 o'clock that the Hubble will pass over the moon, and so that's something I can look at, and I can image the moon at 6 o'clock. You just drop your exposure down considerably, and so then on June the 21st at 5 in the morning, probably not going to happen. Tiangong is going to be transiting the moon, and then the ISS will be transiting the moon on 6/22, and I'll probably be able to see that from my home. Then I doubt it'll be right here at 10-kilometer. At 10 kilometers, it's going to be almost in the center. At my home, it'll be slightly to the up or slightly down, just depend. Probably slightly up. But I'll just put the camera like I have right now on the moon, and I'll put. Let's go back. I'll select a region of interest, more like 2328 by 1780, and I'm getting some drift here. Let's move to the right, and that's good. And I'll probably set it something like this, and I will probably jack the gain up some in order I can get a greater frame rate. Right now we're at 17 frames per second. I'd like to get this somewhere around. Tell you what I could do too. I could probably go down to 1920. I don't know. I sure don't want to make my image size, my region of interest, so small that the transit's down here and I miss it. So I'll and I don't really gain that much in the way of frames per second, 17 to 24, to give up that much real estate. So I would go back to 1920. That's where I was, wasn't it? Say by 1080. Nope. Where was I before? 1760. No, that's fine. That works. That's best right there. So I'll have to remember with the 625. I may use a different system, but this would work. And then I'll keep the frame rate. I will probably jack the, I'm at 1.28 milliseconds, probably jack the gain up to say 200, and then I can drop my exposure down. Well, I'm not even going to do that because I didn't really gain any frame rate, and I ended up getting grain in my image. So I'll go back up here to somewhere around there, and I'll drop my gain back to say 10. You need to have some gain. Don't pick 0. Pick 1, but don't pick 0. Some funky things can happen, and I'm sure I understand it, but I have figured that out the hard way. Okay, but because we're playing around the moon tonight, and we're imaging the moon live, right now. Let's let's go back up to where were we? I think we were at 12. Let's go to 800 by 600, and let's just cover about every. We're going to go back up and see if we can't figure out what that thing is. But again, here's an area of the moon where the sun isn't hitting the region head on, and it's cascading over the surface, creating this definition. So you can see that the sun is coming from down here, headed in that direction, because it's lighting up this side of these craters. I just messed up my. Let me go back to my. Hang on just a minute. Say no. Then we want yes, and that puts them right in the center again. Okay, so I'm going to grab my region of interest selection. So what we're going to do is we're going to go change the region of selection to 300 by 240, and I don't even know if I can grab it. There it is. And then let's do a zoom. Let's zoom in about 100%. No, let's zoom in about 300%. Okay. What is it? Is it a crater or is it a mountain? This is a crater. I think this is a crater that's pushed some stuff up that the sun is seeing. I don't know what it is. But this is a crater. That's a crater. That's a crater. The sun, though, is really lighting this up, so it has to be something that's rising above, and I don't know what it is. Now I have to use our mount to scoot things over, but I have no idea what that is. Maybe it's like an astrodome where things are played, lunar games. The lunar games. I don't know. Anyway, let's go back with and we can go back to auto here, and we can definitely get out of this ridiculously small region of interest, and let's go to, this is small enough, and we were up here. I think we had just left that, and let's zoom, let's say 150. Okay. Scene's not too bad. It's been worse. Actually, we were fighting clouds for a week, and we're in South Carolina, and it's like so many of you guys to the west of us, it's hot. And from what I understand, it's going to be hotter all of next week. I did get my grass cut, my deck stained. A lot of work done this weekend for an old man. Let's head on down here to some familiar. I've got members of our astronomy club, Roper Mountain Astronomy, can name all of these. Not me. I don't know. one of our members, Josh Palmer, has a large Dob. He takes some amazing close-up photos and puts them on our Discord page. He also has some amazing photos and video. Well, actually, they're time-lapse type GIF files that he takes of the ISS when it's passing over. He does an unbelievable job. I don't know how he does it. He put on a how-to at one of our meetings, and I saw him do that, but for the life of me, it's an art that I'll never figure it out. I thought I am going to take the time to do it because that is a challenge worth taking. I just haven't gotten around to it. And if I haven't gotten around to it by now, probably not going to happen. Right, here's some nice contrasty parts of the moon where we're seeing a good bit of the light from the sun cascading over the surface and creating these shadows, brights and shadows. Some of the most dramatic pictures are when you have a quarter moon and or less. Sort of spooky looking. I'll move up a little bit. Again, if you're just joining, we're imaging live our nightlight, and it's awfully close to being a full moon. You know what's intriguing is how almost perfectly circular these craters are, so that you have to kind of deduct from that the crater is impacted by something, an asteroid, a rock, a comet, something, and this is where it had to hit the center in order to create this almost perfectly round ridge. How else could this have happened? And you would think that some of these would be something other than like this, something other than round, where the resistance, maybe the hardness of the moon right here when it hit. Oh, let me back up too. Because of this angle, almost all of these will look a little oblong because we're not seeing them face on. The closer we get towards the center, the more round they appear. But this one is clearly, and this one is clearly not round, but the majority of them are perfect looking circles from my neck of the woods. You don't see many of them that aren't. I went and moved I want my crosshairs to be exactly in the center of my image. I gotta take inventory. Wow, look at the size of this. And here. And the sun's barely. Let's jack up the exposure and see if we're gonna. At the expense of blowing out the bottom right, we're able to pull in some Look at this ridge here. Ta-da! Pretty cool. Yeah. There's our questionable. See, these are, I don't know. This still looks like I can't, I just don't know why it's so bright. Um, this looks like it's elevated, but why isn't it reflecting more of the sun's light? This looks like a crater, but it looks like there has to be some elevation in this here in order for the sun to be radiating so brightly. I don't know. You think there's some golden arches up here maybe, and they're found the first McDonald's on the moon? Yeah, I went and moved the. We are way too hot now. Bring our exposure back down. Way too hot. Okay. When you get into the first quarter of the moon, these areas that you see sort of in the center, or they become outliers, and then you just get to see all the craters and mountain ranges and things that cascaded from the sun's moving over the surface. But when you're getting light on it head on, there's not many features to ooh and ah about. Still pretty hot. All right, let's go back to the native resolution of the camera. And bring us back down again. Let's try it again. I don't know what happened. All right. And oh, let's unzoom. That's what did. That's the problem. Now we're cooking. Now let's go back to the native. And let's just reset our crosshairs to the center of my sensor. And once again, we got some drift and RA in deck. So let's move it over. And south and deck, and let's go up in RA. We're tracking in lunar, are we? Yeah, we're tracking in lunar. I don't know why I'm getting this drift. We are tack sharp polar aligned. So we're 1 second, 1 arc second, a little above or a little below polar aligned. So says guiding the system when I ran it last. So again, if you're just joining us, this is our moon, our night light that we're imaging live. I started imaging it in the daytime I'm using an ASI 1600 monochrome camera, and if you wonder why I'm using it, it's I'm passing time right now to do some deep sky imaging in about 3 hours in that neighborhood. I'll start between 12:30 and 1. My target will still be pretty low in the sky, about 28, 29, 30 degrees elevated altitude, but I'll go ahead and start. I'm shooting over a very dark area. From my backyard, it's away from the city, and over the closest are the darkest areas of my backyard. And I get by with narrowband imaging, and that's what I'll be doing on the elephant's trunk. We're taking a lot of hydrogen, primarily. And since it's going to start getting daylight by 5 o'clock, I'll get probably 3 hours of imaging in. The rest of the time will be changing filters, focusing every 2-degree temperature change. There may not be much change. It's hot out. It's going to stay hot out. There'll be some. And those things take time. So if I've got a 4-hour imaging, if I need 4 hours of imaging time, I better plan on having at least 5.5 hours of calendar time, because I'll lose an hour and a half to dithering, focusing, plate solving, meridian flips, and recentering. I may lose more time than that. I sure have. But an imager told me, if you shoot for an hour, plan for an hour of downtime. I don't think I pay that big of a price, but you do pay a price for trying to have a precision focus, for dithering, and for changing filters. And of course, you can't get away from flipping. Well, if your imaging session is going to, say, end close to a meridian flip, I won't flip. I'll just change the parameters and the limits on my driver, mount driver, to go beyond the meridian an hour, say. And I can go, my mounts are on piers, and I can go beyond the meridian an hour easily without having any issues. But I usually set it up to flip about 20 minutes past the meridian. I used to have it flip at the meridian, and I noticed sometimes it would not recenter, and so the whole session would abort, and I couldn't quite figure out what was going on. But if you're so close to the meridian when you flip, then your mount may not be able to move to center your target. And so you want to give your target some time to pass the meridian, so you've got some wiggle room for your mount to correctly move to center your target. You know, if you ever notice that you're centering in declination okay, but your RA off by your RA won't move. It's the same RA every time, and your focuser runs 3 or 4 times, and your right ascension stays at whatever it is. It just doesn't move, and you wonder, well, it's not making any corrections. So you change from plate solve 2 to pinpoint, or you just use astronomy net to try to plate solve and nothing works. Well, you can't move your mount until it moves away from the meridian. So I always, the short story, Set your meridian flip 20 minutes past the meridian. All mounts can manage that without banging into something. Would think anyway. Better be careful saying that, but wow, I am getting this drift. All right, live imaging the moon. Let's go look closer. Again, let's go up and take a region of interest down to 1024 by 768. And then I'm going to move the region of selection box. I'm using SharpCap, and my camera is an ASI 1600mm camera, and my guider is a Starlight Express Lodestar guide camera. And if you go to File, SharpCap Settings, my hardware is I have a Moonlight focuser, and I'm using EQ-SCOM as my mount driver. So I only use SharpCap for lunar, solar, and planetary. I have Sequence Generator Pro set up to do everything else imaging wise. And we'll head up here. So I have some dates coming up in June where the ISS, Tiangong, Hubble will all be transiting the moon. And so if I can remember, and I need to put it in my calendar, which is what I'll typically do. I got to remember to put it in my calendar. And we're looking at some of the only features on the moon right now because it's nearly full. So we have to go to the edge away from where the sun is striking the moon to get some contrast. And so why don't we take a picture right here. Let me make sure that I have an external hard drive set up. Right now it's going to be on my C drive. So let's go down to this solid state drive. Let's create a new folder, and the day is 61122, and we're just going to call this lunar, and that's all we really need to call it. And we can come find it. Let's also we don't need to change anything else. Apply it. Always when you make changes up here to anything that you select apply. If you just click OK, it won't be applied. And that's the way it is. We're going to pick lunar, our moon. And so let's see what our quick capture is going to be. We sure don't need 500 frames. Let's try 200 frames. And we're capturing 200 frames at 35 frames per second. And it's done. So do I have SharpCap on this? I don't think I do. I don't have it on there. Let me see. And that's my planetarium software. This is EQ-SCOM driver, Pegasus. Yeah, AutoStacker. Yay. We're going to open. we're going to head over to SSD drive, lunar, moon. There's our moon. Normally, I'll see if we can't give us a little more of a view. Normally I would scrub through this and looking for the sharpest one, but I can't tell. I'm going to move this selection box. It's not working for me. There we go. I want to have some features. I want to have the rim. I'd like to have part of that. Let's see if I can get it up just a little bit. Better just should have left it well enough alone. There we go. That's what I want. Okay, and then let's go ahead and I keep surface when I'm doing the sun or the moon. And of course it's planet for planets. And I have improved tracking selected, crop selected. I have Laplace selected and noise robust set at 5. Play around with that to suit yourself. And auto size local. Let's analyze this. I think this is one of the slow laptops that I've got. Okay, we have a quality graph, and it looks like that if this is to 50% and this is 50%, this is halfway. Of the 500 frames, we start with frame 1, and then all these 500 frames, some of them are below 50% quality, and some of them are above 50% quality. Some of them are above 25%. And what we're going to do, we're going to pick the top 15%. And what I have found out is you don't need 1,000 frames and keep 60%, even though it says you got about 60% of your frames are above or better than 50% of them. That's not necessarily good. In fact, if you've got roughly 25% of your frames better than 75%, which is these up here, it's not quite 25%. That's really not necessarily that good. So I'm going to pick 15% as the number of frames I'm going to stack together. And we're not going to do that right now, but let's go ahead and set our align points. And we need to place in a grid. Don't like that. Let's go up to 104. Let's clear it. Now do 104. Apologize for the screw ups. It's taking us some time. That's okay. You can, these are boxes that are 104 pixels by 104 pixels, 48 by 48. And you can pick one of the presets here, or you can change it to something else. If you don't like 104, maybe try 112. Clear it first. Daggone it. And that's what we're going to do, by the way. So let's stack it. And we're done. And so now let's open up. I wonder if I got it on this. I never used this for, this laptop is for deep space, usually pretty much only. I guess I have Registacks on here. I really don't like to use Registacks. Oh, we got it, but see if I got IMPPG on here. I'd rather use IMPPG software. Well, Let's see if it's nah. Well, what software do we have? Google Chrome. Let's go install it. IMPPG download. Hey, wonder if this is a bandit site. No, this is what we want. Great Attractor GitHub. This is where you want to go, and that's what you want right there. And we're going to do this version right here. And we want Windows. We'll go that one right there. And it's IMPPG. We're good to go. Let's let it rip. Still downloading. I think it's done. Let's go ahead and get rid of this. I thought it was done. Let's go to our downloads. Click on it. And let's just open it up. I bet I have to unpack it. Yeah. Extract all. Let's don't put it in the downloads. Let's put it in program files, 86, like that. Extract. And you'll need, we do have it. Okay, and so if we go to C drive and our program files, and we go down to IMPPG, we have, let's create a shortcut, and we can close this out. We should have, there's our shortcut, and yay, so we can close this out. Don't need that. All right, let's open up IMPPG. Run anyway. And so let's go find the moon. File, open. And we want to go to our lunar. And so what happens, it creates a auto stacker folder with a percentage of 15 frames. That's what that means. Let's open this up. And there's our moon now. Let's make sure we've reset everything. You'll notice that the bounding box here, in order to enhance your processor speed, will only process like Registax does, a certain part of the moon. You can make this bigger by just drawing it with your mouse. But I want you to take a look at the histogram. And the histogram goes up like a mountain, like it's supposed to. And then we're going to move this histogram out here and take in the dark, and it shifts over here where we're going to have a lot more on the black side. So what I do is I'll go up here. I found that even my slowest laptops, slowest processors, can still handle this pretty quickly. So I don't like doing a small region. I just put select and process all, which is my option. The box goes away, and already it's done a good bit of deconvolution. And this is really the only, I don't use sharpening because it just screws things up and it doesn't look real. It's almost too sharpened right now. And I'll drag decon down a little bit, but you can see that it in and of itself is, it takes a little time for the processor to completely restore it. Let's just reset it, and it has. But this is where you can play with your curves and create a little S curve, which will add more contrast to these features out here. But this is what 15, actually this is 45 frames that we stacked. We took 200, we kept 15%. So 30 frames, sorry, this is 30 frames we stacked. So you don't need 500 frames. You would get a bit, you would get improvement, but I don't know it would be that significant. I've sat here and played around with it when I had nothing else to do, kind of like tonight, and I'm waiting for the clock to finally get to my imaging time for a deep space object, and doing things like this, just trying different settings. And I have 77-year-old eyes, so and they aren't good. They were better, but they're not as good. So I may be missing something, but all in all, I think that you can keep your file size down. It processes so much quicker, and I don't think you lose anything of consequence. So let's go back out and take a look at our. We don't need this. Let's get rid of it, and let's bring up SharpCap and see where our sun is, our moon is. And we're going to bring the exposure up some. And we got some clouds. I sure hope we're able to image tonight, but clouds are, I wondered what was going on. The clouds are going to mess me up. And with that, I think I'm going to shut down this live imaging session of the moon, and probably walk outside and take a look at up, and or we can possibly, let's look at the surveillance and see if we can see anything of merit. Nah, I can't tell. This is the refractor, the 625 Vixen ED81S that's currently on the moon. But we had some clouds, clusters of clouds all over the sky when I started, but the moon was really in a pretty clear area, but that's changed obviously. So we're going to, I'm going to go ahead and park the scope, and let's bring up my driver, which is down here, and park the scope, and we'll check that, make sure it's parking, and it is. And I'm gonna go outside and take my sky quality meter and hang on just a minute. Okay, I'm gonna take my sky quality meter, and for the last about 8 days, I decided I was going to take a reading straight up and north, south, east, and west, about 45 degrees altitude, straight up, and then about 45 degrees. And I've been recording the sky quality rating, and I'm in the high 19s, and when the moon's not out. But I'm doing this for over a 30-day period, and I'll be able to graphically show uh, the best parts of the sky to image on any given phase of the moon. And so kind of already know what that is. It's just kind of a game I'm playing because I have the toy to play with. That's all. All right. Well, I hope everybody gets some clear skies in their neck of the woods and some cool weather if you're fighting this heat like we are. And until we get back together again, there is a chance that if the skies open up and I am able to image at 12:30, I'll do that and live. So if you're not doing anything at 12:30, insomnia overtakes you. Check out the YouTube channel. I may be live. And with that being said, I hope everybody has a great night and great rest of the weekend.